Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is our Member of Parliament for Thunder Bay Rainy River, Don Rusnak. Welcome, Don.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Well, and we had an opportunity to chat around 6 months ago, and at the end of the show I said, you have to come back, and you so graciously have. Thanks so much for that.
It seems like yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I just watched some of the show earlier to kind of get back into the atmosphere. And let me start, in our last show, and as viewers might know, is on YouTube, and they can see it anytime they want. So we're building on our previous conversations. You've been now a member for a year and a half, I guess, more or less.
Over 15 months, I believe, just over.
So, general reflections. What do you from when you first started the job to what you've learned so far? What would you share to another new member, say?
Make sure, one, you have amazing staff, and that's one of the biggest helps for me has been the staff that I have. They've been amazing. They're the ones that work the front lines with the people I represent. So you have to have amazing staff because they deal with people in difficult situations, people that sometimes feel like there's nowhere else to go, and if they're not right on their you're going to have issues. So we have everyone from veterans coming in before the Veterans Office opened, and even after the Veterans Office had opened, with horrible stories, and making sure that they get the service in the office, and that information gets to me, and then I can get that information to the ministers or the people that need to know right away. So one of the things is amazing staff.
So how many staff do you have?
I'm trying to think, 3 in the riding here. So we have a constituency assistant, my executive assistant, and our office manager here in Thunder Bay, a part-time staff that I share with the member of provincial parliament, Bill Morrow, in Atikokan, and part-time staff in Fort Francis. And then I have 2 part-time staff in Ottawa, and we also have been lucky enough to get a parliamentary intern through the parliamentary internship program, which is a prestigious program, 2 years in a row for half the year. So it's been a great help there. And we also have a student that will be starting shortly in our office here, and another student that we had in Ottawa. So it seems like a lot of people, but there's an incredible amount of work to do for individuals in terms of the casework, and then all of the other things I do within the government and within my role as Indigenous caucus chair, and also for the committees I sit on.
So what percentage of the staff time would be focused on those constituency matters?
I haven't really gave that much thought, but I would say about probably 40% of the time would be focused on the constituency matters. More so in the riding, I would say up to probably 60 or 65% of that in Atikokan and Fort Francis, and here in Thunder Bay, more time would be focused on the constituency casework, because you're dealing one-on-one with the individuals coming into the office.
And so what would be the hot button issues that your staff would be facing, in that frontline support, that where people are coming looking for help?
It really depends on the time of year, right?
Okay.
So around tax time, which is coming up, it's dealing with CRA, and we found that out last year. Dealing with a CRA can be problematic, or it could use. They can use an extra hand getting some information. Before the Veterans Affairs Office opened, we had issues with veterans and getting services. So and not to speak about individual cases, but former members of the Canadian Forces that hadn't been diagnosed with either PTSD or something, and needed that diagnosis or needed that help. And I know I speak to the Minister of Veterans Affairs often. He's become a good friend of mine. That is ultimately, no matter paperwork or anything, we want to make sure that those service members get the help that they need ASAP.
Well, we should talk about that because the Veterans Affairs has restructured their compensation program for people who have injuries or diseases on the job, much like our workers' compensation, where of course I spent my last 35 years kind of trying to understand how that really works and how come it doesn't work better. So I applaud you in trying to sort through that kind of bureaucracy where oftentimes the health of the people we're supposed to serve doesn't seem to be a top priority anymore.
Well, I know that there's a lot of problems within, or in the last decade for sure, and beyond that, with the way our government and departments have been dealing with all kinds of issues, and veterans are top of mind of this government. And doing things that make sense and listening to the people that actually are affected by the changes that we're implementing. So we're not always going to make the right decision, and the decisions are made based on advice from bureaucrats, listening to the people that are actually serviced, and looking at best practices. But sometimes those always don't lead you down the garden path to creating the right system. So I know the minister listens, has implemented a lot of new policies and procedures and new standards, and not all of it may be right, and is open to looking at how those are affecting the people on the ground and making the changes that we need to make for programs that aren't working so well for our veterans.
And so kind of continuing this, because I'm thinking about my own experience where there's really actually a shortage of evidence in terms of how you help people who become disabled, whether it's in the workplace, and veterans are in the workplace too, or other areas of their lives, and understanding how then we accommodate people with disabilities in all kinds of parts of our society. And so I've been real involved with researchers for the last 20 years trying to understand these issues. And I see when policymakers make choices, oftentimes they don't have evidence. They have a political analysis of what they think might work, and then they tell you it's the best thing, but the evidence isn't actually there. Have you gotten that far into the kind of some of those issues to see what is best practices? I mean, where the evidence actually lies?
Well, so this is interesting because I'll firstly say no, not one of my areas of expertise, but Minister Carla Qualtrough was doing a consultation across the country, and I congratulate Carla for recently winning an award at being the one of the top athletes for our country. But anyways, it was one of the consultations that I sat here for Thunder Bay, the whole region. It was extremely interesting to hear that a lot of...
We're going to have to take a short break. I'm so sorry, Don. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.